Hello friends, I wanted to share another excerpt from one of my favorite books that I've talked about multiple times. Also, this is a little book cover case thingy that I made. Women Who Run with the Wolves. I restarted reading it again. I have so many chapters like folded / saved in terms of what I want to share. So this is starting from page 254, self-preservation, identifying leg traps. The shadow life occurs when writers, painters, dancers, mothers, seekers, mystics, students, or journey women stop writing, painting, dancing, mothering, looking, peering, learning, practicing. They might stop because whatever they just spent long with did not come out the way that they had hoped, or did not receive the recognition it deserved, or countless other reasons. When the maker stops for whatever reason, the energy that naturally flows to her is diverted underground, where it surfaces whenever and wherever it can. Because a woman feels she cannot in daylight go full bore at whatever it is she wants, she begins to lead a strange double life, pretending one thing in daylight hours, acting another way when she gets a chance. When a woman pretends to press her life down into a nice, tidy little package, all she accomplishes is spring-loading all her vital energy down into the shadow. Fine, I'm fine, such a woman says. We look at her across the room or in the mirror. We know she is not fine. Then, one day, we hear she is taken up with a piccolo player and has run off to Tippecanoe to be a pool hall queen. And we wonder what happened because we know she hates piccolo players and always wanted to live on Orcas Island, not in Tippecanoe, and she never before mentioned anything about pool halls. Like Hedda Gabler in Henrik Ibsen's play, the wildish woman can pretend to live an ordinary life while gritting her teeth, but there's always a price to pay. Hedda sneaks a passionate and dangerous life, playing games with an ex-lover and with death. Outwardly, she pretends to be content, wearing bonnets and listening to her dry husband cavil about his dusty life. A woman can be outwardly polite and even cynical, but inwardly hemorrhaging. Or, like Janis Joplin, a woman can try to comply until she can't stand it any longer, and then her creative nature, corroded and sickened by being forced into the shadow, erupts violently to rebel against the tenets of breeding in reckless ways that disregard one's gifts and one's very life. You can call it anything you like, but sneaking a life because the real one is not given room enough to thrive is hard on women's vitality. Captured and starved women sneak all kinds of things. They sneak unsanctioned books and music. They sneak friendships, sexual feelings, religious affiliation. They sneak furtive thinking, dreams of revolution. They sneak away times from their mate and families. They sneak a treasure into the house. They sneak their writing time, their thinking time, their soul time. They sneak a spirit into the bedroom, a poem before work. They sneak a skip or an embrace when no one is looking. To detour off this polarized path, a woman has to surrender the pretense. Sneaking a counterfeit soul life never works. It always blows out the sidewall when you're least expecting it. Then it's misery all around. It's better to get up, stand up, no matter how homemade your platform, and live the most you can, the best you can, and forego the sneaking of counterfeits. Hold out for what has real meaning and health for you. In the tale, the child ducks the shoes past the old woman with failing eyesight. Here, it is affirmed that the dry and perfectionistic value system itself is devoid of the ability to see closely, to be alert to what is going on all around. It is typical of the injured inner psyche and culture as well to not notice the personal distress of the self. So the young girl makes one more rotten choice in a long line of several. Let us surmise that her first step to entrapment, entering the gilded carriage, was made out of ignorance. Let us say letting go of her own handiwork was thoughtless but typical of those who are inexperienced at life. But now she wants those shoes in the shoemaker's case, and paradoxically, the impulse toward new life is right and proper, but she has spent too much time at the old woman's, and her instincts do not cry out in alarm as she chooses this deadly potential. In fact, the shoemaker conspires with the child. He winks and smiles about her poor choice. Together, they sneak the red shoes by. Women trick themselves this way. They've thrown away the treasure, whatever it might be, but they're sneaking bits and pieces any way they can. Are they writing? Yes, but secretly, so they have no support, no feedback. The student, is she going for her edge? Yes, but secretly, so she can have no help and no mentor. Is the performer risking putting out completely original work, or is she presenting pale imitations so that she becomes a mime instead of an exemplar? What about the ambitious woman who is pretending to not be ambitious, but who is heartfelt towards accomplishments for herself, her people, her world? She is the powerful dreamer, yet consigns herself to struggle forward in silence. It is deadly to be without a confidant, without a guide, without even a tiny cheering section. It is difficult to sneak little shreds of life this way, but women do it every day. When a woman feels compelled to sneak life, she is in minimal subsistence mode. She sneaks life away from the hearing of them, whoever the them is in her life. She acts disinterested and calm on the surface, but whenever there is a crack of light, her starved self leaps out, runs for the nearest life form, lights up, kicks back, charges madly, dances herself silly, exhausts herself, then tries to creep back to the black cell before anyone notices she is gone. Women with poor marriages do this. Women made to feel inferior do this. Women filled with shame, women fearing punishment, ridicule, or humiliation do this. Instinct-injured women do this. Sneaking is good for a captured woman only if she sneaks the right thing, only if that thing leads to her liberation. In essence, sneaking good and filling and brave pieces of life causes the soul to be even more determined that the sneaking stop and that it be free to lead the life out in the open as it sees fit. You see, there's something in the wild soul that will not let us subsist forever on a piecemeal intake, because in actuality, it is impossible for the woman who strives for consciousness to sneak little sniffs of good air and then be content with no more. Remember when you were a child and you found out that you couldn't do yourself in by holding your breath? Though you might try to get by on just a little air or no air at all, some big fist bellows takes over, something fierce and demanding that makes you eventually shovel the air in as fast as you can. You gulp it, bite it down until you are breathing fully again. Blessedly, there's something like that in the soul psyche as well. It takes us over and forces us to take full breaths of good air. Truly, we know that we cannot really subsist on sneaking little sips of life. The wild force in a woman's soul demands that she have access to it all. We can stay alert and take in the things that are right for us. The shoemaker in the tale foreshadows the old soldier who brings the dance yourself crazy shoes to life later in the story. There are too many coincidences between this character and what we know of ancient symbolism to think he is just an innocent bystander. The natural predator within the psyche, and that of the culture as well, is a shape changer, a force that is able to disguise itself, just as traps, cages, and poison bait are disguised in order to lure the unaware. We must take into account that he makes a joke out of tricking the old women. No, it is likely that he is in a league with the soldier, who is of course a depiction of devil in disguise. In olden times, the devil, the soldier, the shoemaker, the hunchback, and other images were used to portray the negative forces in both earth nature and human nature. While we could rightfully be proud of the soul brave enough to try to sneak a something and anything under such drought conditions, the fact remains that that alone cannot be the sole issue. A whole psychology has to include not only body, mind, and spirit, but also equally culture and environ. And in this light, it must be asked at each level how it came to be that any individual woman feels she has to cringe, flinch, grovel, and plead for a life that is her own to begin with. What is in the culture that demands such? Inquiring into the pressures created by each layer of the inner and outer worlds will preclude a woman from thinking that sneaking the devil's shoes is in any way a constructive choice at all.